Welcome to the 21st Annual Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee Candidates Debate. We're live from Chelmsford, Massachusetts, the Chelmsford Police Training Room. Our thanks to the town of Chelmsford, the Chelmsford Police, and everybody that's turned out to see our candidates debate. We are broadcasting simultaneously for the first time on Chelmsford Telecommunication. And before much more time goes on, I'll tell you what channel to tune in if you're listening. I think, give me some fingers and I'll tell them what channel to tune into. Not that finger, my goodness. You know, fingers like 3, 8, what's the channel number? They're getting it for us. You're tuned to 980 WCAP Lowell. I want to thank all of our sponsors for giving up their time in the public interest and for the public's benefit, so that we can bring you this debate without commercial interruption. We have placed our candidates at the table by order of pulchritude, and you can decide who the most beautiful is working down and up. But we have with us all three candidates, and we will, before we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to honor our colors and our country, we'll have our traditional choice of who will go first and who will go last, and we always do this on the air. So candidates, we don't do it with a coin toss because there are three of you. So I am thinking, which is a trick, of a number between 1 and 3, and the closer you come to the number, the more likely it is that you get to choose whether you're going to go first or last. So, Sandi, I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 3.
2.
2. Pat?
2.
That would be. Sure. How do you respond to that? Sir?
2.
2. Why don't we try this again? You should each choose a different number. Let's give it a wider range. I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 10. Sir?
7.
5. 3.
3 is the number. So there it is. I wrote down the number 3. So would you like to go first or last, Sandi?
Last.
You'd like to go last. Okay, and I believe our next closest guesser was Pat. So Pat, do you want to go first? That's the only thing that's open, or do you want to defer and wind up second?
I'll go second.
So you'd like to go second. Okay.
I can go
Then
first.
you certainly can. We have our order. The first statement will be Mr. Diggs, and the last word will be Ms. Martinez. Right now, I would like everyone to rise and join us as we pay tribute to our colors, the flag, and all those who serve under it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Town elections are April 5th, 2016. We're just a little shy of 2 weeks away. There isn't a more important duty that we have as Americans than voting. In fact, there are positions in town that are going to go unfilled on this year's ballot. I'm hoping that it's just an oversight by the townspeople, and that by election day we'll have a lot of write-in candidates. But again, very, very important, and I know that the town is an excellent town, but we can always improve. And to improve and also to maintain our excellence, we need people elected to do our bidding. And we are the government, and if we don't participate, I suppose we can't complain about what we get. We've invited the press here, and I do recognize one member of the press who came in right on time. John McDonald from 980 WCAP. A round of applause for John, and if you'd come down to the press area, John, that would be great. And what we are going to do is pass out little cards to the audience. We would like you to be asking questions. No one knows better what needs to be asked and answered than the people who are living in town and the folks who are sitting here. I want to also say that both Chelmsford Telecommunications and 980 WCAP will be rebroadcasting and re-airing this debate as many times as we can before the April 5th election. And we will certainly be re-airing this on the Thursdays before the election, and any time that we can fit it into the schedule. And I know that Chelmsford Telecommunications will also be doing that. I'm Sam Poulten, and I am the chair of the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee. As a committee, we are dedicated to good government. When it comes to town elections, we are nonpartisan. And we believe that in government, the best people should always serve. By our charter, we believe that the best platform in a statewide election or a national election is Democrat, obviously. And if people agree with our platform and our doctrine, the town committee meets on the third Thursday of the month, either at the 110 Grill or right here at the Chelmsford Police Training Room. And in fact, we will be having a meeting directly after this debate. So if you are listening or watching and you're inclined to join a political party, please seek us out. You can Google Chelmsford Democrats and people will come out. There were 33 of us that were just elected on March 1st. Our names are right out there on the ballot. Many of us are here tonight, and we all welcome your inquiries and your calls. And we especially enjoy spirited debates with our counterparts in the Republican Party. Nothing creates better government than two sets of principles looking for common ground. And that's what we would like to see. So the more debate we can get between town Republicans and town Democrats, the better. And we're certainly committed to that. I would be remiss if I didn't ask for a moment of silence to pause and reflect on the horrific actions that have led to so many lost lives and serious injuries in Brussels, Belgium. So if you would just join me for a moment. Thank you. I'd also note that we are having this debate on Holy Thursday and Purim, so I'm an equal opportunity guy to be right up against religious events. I know that Purim ends at sundown. The sun has gone down, so for our Jewish listeners and audience, Chag Someach, and it's okay to turn on the radio and the television and enjoy the debate. And for people that celebrated Holy Thursday, I hope that there'll be a very late Mass that you can attend after the debate. So again, thank you very much. We will begin with opening statements. Candidates, you have 2 minutes. There's a bell that will sound, and there's a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, and a 10-second warning. So we begin opening statements with, I believe, Albert Diggs.
I'm also known as Glenn. I grew up in Somerville and graduated from Somerville High School in 1965 and subsequently graduated from Northeastern University with honors with a BS degree in management. And I've resided in Chelmsford since 1998 with my wife Valerie, who has been here about 35 years as a 20-year veteran of the Chelmsford school system. During the past 4 decades, I have been a respected sales and sales management executive, serving in a variety of roles, including vice president, working locally, nationally, and internationally. in security-related fields, and I've received numerous awards for that. I began following the financial health of a town after the recent problems related to the school system. I believe that Chelmsford will be facing increased pressure for its limited resources in the years to come. It is Chelmsford's leadership that must provide the tone and atmosphere to ensure the town's long-term financial health. I believe it's time to bring in individuals with new perspectives in regard to the direction the town needs to follow to find a road to fiscal responsibility and economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Pat Wojcik?
Thank you. I want to thank the Democratic Town Committee for hosting this debate this evening, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank Matt Hansen, who has served a couple of terms on the Board of Selectmen. He's here this evening, and he's going to be missed on the board. I know that for a fact. And also to thank Janet Askenberg for her service, and Evelyn Thoren, who is leaving the school committee after many, many terms. I'll be a selectman for the entire town of Chelmsford, from Hart Pond to Freeman Lake, and from Harmony Park to Friendship Park, to Friendship Field. And I'll serve the seniors that struggle to pay their real estate taxes, down to the 4- and 5-year-old kids that are just entering kindergarten. I'll work with the selectmen that are seated on the board now. I'll work with my colleagues to come up with solutions for the issues that we face in the town of Chelmsford. So I'm looking forward to a spirited debate here this evening, and I'd be honored to have your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Sandi Martinez.
I too want to thank Sam Poulten and the Democratic Town Committee for hosting this candidates debate tonight, and also Pat and Glenn for running. Yes, it's Glenn, sorry. I also want to thank those of you sitting here and those of you watching this at home through the courtesy of the Chelmsford Telemedia. I love Chelmsford. My mother moved here with me and my 3 younger siblings after my father, a young lieutenant in the Air Force, was killed in a plane crash. I was 5 years old. All 7 of us, all 7 children from my mother and my stepfather, graduated from Chelmsford High School, and I've always considered this my home. As your selectman, I will fight to improve our economy, grow jobs, fight for fiscal reforms, lower our tax burden, and provide quality constituent services. I worked in IT for many, many years. GTE Sylvania, I worked in Leahy Clinic, and eventually I worked for IBM, installing operating systems and solving problems. Through all those years of working in IT and solving problems, I've developed an uncanny knack of problem solving, and I will apply those skills to the problems that come before the Board of Selectmen as well. I'm a candidate who has signed a no new tax pledge from Citizens for Limited Taxation, and I will fight to honor that pledge for you. I want to be a voice of the people, and so I humbly will be asking for your vote on April 5th, one of your 2 votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandi Martinez. I think that the candidates deserve a round of applause. They all came in way under the time allotted for their opening statements. All right, you will now have 2 minutes to answer each question that's asked. And if the question warrants a rebuttal from one or more of the candidates, that candidate or candidates will be given 1 minute to rebut. Our first question is for all of the candidates, and Sandi Martinez will be first, followed by Pat, and then Glenn. And the question is twofold. First is, why are you running for selectman? And the second is, why you and not the other 2 candidates? So if you could enlighten us in 2 minutes as to why you're our best choice.
Well, the reason I'm running is because, as I said, I love Chelmsford. Chelmsford's been my home since I was 5 years old, and I want to give back to the town that's given me so much. The great education that I received, the great home that we live in, the great roads that we drive on, the great schools that my children have attended. I just want to give back to this town because it's given me so much. Why me? I think the one thing I bring is a fresh face to the Board of Selectmen. I am a problem solver, and I will dig in and do my very best to solve the problems that come before the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Pat Wojcik.
Well, the reason I'm running is I'd like to use my experience and my judgment to work with the other members of the Board of Selectmen to address the issues that we face in Chelmsford. It's getting harder and harder for some of the seniors, as we've heard, to pay their real estate taxes, and I think we need to come up with some creative ways to raise some additional revenue so that we're not so dependent on the property taxes. As to why I might be better than the people on either side of me to be on the board, that's for the voters to decide. Everybody has a different idea about what it takes to be a good selectman, and obviously I'll respect whatever the voters decide on April 5th.
Thank you, Pat. Glenn?
I'm running because I want to help create a common fiscal goal for the town. I've been attending most of the school committee meetings, most of the finance meetings, many school committee meetings, and not always did everyone seem to be on the same page. They were always working hard for the town, excuse me, but didn't seem to be always working in the complete exact direction. And I feel that with my management experience, I can bring a closer tie between the boards. I think the years ahead will be difficult ones financially based on the fact that we have continually received mandates from the state that we're not fully funded for, and that the health and benefits fees associated every year go up. Last year, I think, was almost 10%. And that's going to continue. That isn't going away. And that we need to create a atmosphere and a income stream that will match those needs in the future.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, our second question, and by the way, I want to remind the audience, fill out your cards and send them up. I think Selectman Hanson, as one of his last acts as selectman, can deliver our questions down to the front. So there's Matt. Matt, I think there are a lot of cards that have been filled out. If you can start collecting them, we can continue with our audience questions. We have another question that's been submitted, and let me make sure I read it correctly. Again, this is for all three candidates, and the question is, by the end of your term, what would you want to see accomplished, changed, or made better? Please choose one thing at least, and be specific, please. And we start this round with Glenn.
You want three things, but you want one?
We want, well, it's the way it's written is, by the end of your term, what would you want to see accomplished, changed, or made better? I guess they're asking you to choose either something that you accomplished, something that you changed, or something that you made better.
I think probably all three of them are related. I would like to see the reintroduction of the Leadership Council, which is the town manager, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, finance manager, head of the finance committee, probably the head of the planning board, to set the tone for their various teams to work forward to. I'd also like to see a study created, not unlike that's being done for the school system, for fiscal planning and increasing the percentage of the town's economic revenue from the approximately 20% it's at now to a higher level. 80% is now residential. And I think that it's time to bring everyone together. I think that the most important thing is to create an environment so that the town is not always looking to closely balance its budget by trying to figure out everything is level. There are certain things that need not be level that we have to spend more money on. And that's a constant problem going forward. If we had larger revenue stream, we could bring in more programs, we could pay our public employees a fairer wage, and so forth and so on. But all that starts with money. And I would think that if there was a legacy of my 3 years, it would be to find a way to make those choices that are brought to town meeting more equitable for everyone and less difficult.
Thank you, Glenn. Sandi?
I'm thinking about the piece of property that is currently owned by UMass Lowell up in North Chelmsford. I would love to see Chelmsford pursue that actively and use it for affordable housing so that we can meet our quota and be done with it once and for all. And I would really work hard to see that accomplished during my 3 years.
Thank you, Sandi. And Pat?
I'd like to see the revitalization of both Central Square and Vinyl Square continue. In Central Square, about a year or so ago, or actually it's longer than that now, the state legislature allocated $5 million in a transportation bond bill to that endeavor. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any of that money yet, so we need to advocate with the governor and with other officials in Boston to release some of those funds so that we can put in new walkways and new facades in the center, and the same thing up in Vinyl Square. There's been some work, I know, over at Varney Playground, and we need to continue improving that area too. So I'd like to see both centers of town improved and enhanced and revitalized, and probably additional sidewalks to make both areas more walkable for people that live in the neighborhoods.
Thank you very much. The next question from the audience concerns taxes, specifically, and I believe this person must mean TIFs. I'll read you the question. What is your view on tax incentives as a tool to attract and retain businesses? Are you sure such deals are good or bad policy? So do you feel such deals are good or bad policy? So what is your view on tax incentives? And we start with Pat.
I favor tax incentives when we can work out, they are negotiable with whoever we're dealing with as far as somebody adding value to the community. A tax incentive basically does not allow us to lower taxes for any existing facilities in town or real estate, office buildings and such. But any improvements that somebody would make or anything like that could possibly be taxed at a lower rate for a specified number of years. I think it has been proved to be a valuable incentive to bring industry to the community. We've used several of them in the past, and I think they've been successful. So I do favor them. As I said, they need to be done in a careful manner so that we're not giving away too much. But other communities use them, and sometimes we have to use whatever tools we have in our toolbox, as they say, and that's definitely a good one.
Thank you, Pat. Glenn?
I also favor their use in general. However, each individual instance really needs to stand on its own merit. I think that when they're given, there has to be some recourse if they don't fulfill their obligations. I think that's one of the questions that's come up recently with the problem of the company moving to the Lowell Tower. But in general, TIFs have historically proven valuable for the towns that give them. But again, each company or each instance of using it has to be weighed against the benefits.
Thank you, Glenn. I have 3 questions for Sandi Martinez, and I'm going to try to I'm going to try to combine these, and I'm also going to invite the other candidates to comment because this is a debate, so we want to see what the other candidates feel also.
Can Sandi comment on TIFs?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I not ask Sandi to do that? Well, I'm living up to my reputation of leaving somebody out. I'm glad I did it early. So, Sandi, before we go to the next question, what is your answer on TIFs?
Well, since I'm not on the Board of Selectmen and I'm pretty unfamiliar with the TIFs, what I would say is I'm going to do my best to understand all sides of the issue that is presented to the Board of Selectmen, and I'll vote in a way that's best for the town and for the people who live here. from what Pat and Glenn explained, it sounds like incentives are a really good thing to bring businesses in. I just can't take a position because I'm really not familiar with them.
All right, thank you. And I will, just a follow-up if I might, will you make that a priority? That is coming up to speed on TIFs should you be elected, because you may not have a whole lot of time on that.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, Sandi was up next to be first, and I still have those 3 questions, so I'm going to try to combine them, Sandi.
Okay.
So, here they are. It says, Sandi, you have signed a no-tax initiative pledge and have publicly vowed to use your, quote, Yankee ingenuity to keep taxes at the current level or lower. Having said that, what do you feel the Board of Selectmen's role is over taxes? And then the second part that will take care of all of these 3 questions is, does your no-tax pledge include Proposition 2.5? So I'll put that aside, but I'm giving you, the heads up that the second part of the question concerns Prop 2.5. So the first part is, you signed a no-tax pledge. You vowed to use your Yankee ingenuity to keep taxes at the current level or lower. So having made that pledge, how do you think the Board of Selectmen can do that? How can the Board of Selectmen keep our taxes where they are or lower our taxes?
Well, it's like anything else, I guess. When you have a budget at home, you set your budget at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the fiscal month, depending on how you're paid, and you spend according to the budget that you've laid out. If you happen to run out of money, you don't go next door to your neighbor and say, oh, by the way, I blew my budget, can you lend me $100 or $200 or whatever? So you set a budget and you try to live within that budget. I think that's the gist of being a fiscal conservative, is trying to not spend what you don't have. Many, many times what you hear in town is from the elderly, that, especially the elderly, that they can't afford to live here anymore. They're being taxed out of town. And I've taken a pledge to try to keep taxes under control and reduce them if possible. I know it's possible in some towns. Hopkinton passed an underride a couple of years ago, and they lowered their tax base by 2.5%. So it's possible to control taxes. It's possible to still give good services if you do it in a fiscally responsible manner, I believe.
All right. And the second part is, does that no new tax pledge, lower tax pledge, no increase pledge include opposing any Prop 2.5 override?
I don't believe so. The Citizens for Limited Taxation are the people that are the author of the Prop 2.5, and that's what the limit is they recommend that you don't increase taxes more than the 2.5%. And so that's not considered a new tax as far as I'm concerned. That's within the realm of taxing.
No, I think the question is, would you, if the town could not raise enough money in its taxes, this audience member is asking you in advance, did the pledge you took mean that if there is an override proposed, you would oppose it?
It's a question I don't know. I would have to go back and look at, I signed the pledge several years ago, and see if there's any wording in there that would indicate that, but my understanding is probably not. But I will double check and I can get back to you on that.
Thank you very much. Okay. Our next question from the audience is a very simple one for a change. The audience member asks, do we need a new high school? And you're up first, Glenn. I hope you won't just say yes or no.
No, I'm going to, excuse me, I'm going to answer it that no one really knows. The school department right now is going through their comprehensive physical examination from an outside company. The results, I've attended half of the second meeting and all of the third meeting. The third meeting was to produce some information concerning the trending information that they've already garnered. That information doesn't say, at this point, that they need an elementary school, or they need a middle school, or they need a high school. However, it does say that they do need, that there is overcrowding at all levels, that there is a problem in that if you do something to a particular school, update a particular school, to get money from the state to help augment that, like, for example, Bill Ricker did for the new high school. If you do 30% of a building, you must do the entire building, which was pretty much a shock, I think, to the school board that was there. They also talked about how there were some people who felt that all-day kindergarten could be housed at the school in the Westlands, and they showed that the current standards for kindergartens are that you need 1,200 square feet per classroom, though classrooms in that school are 700 to 750 feet. So there has been no definitive statements on anything, so I think it's premature to say that you need a high school or any school at this point.
Thank you, Glenn. Sandi.
Well, I'm glad Glenn spelled it all out for us. It makes it much easier to make an answer on that one. I'm never one that believes that our first course of action should be to build a new building. We have a lot of buildings in town that have been repurposed over the years. Our current town hall used to be the high school that my uncle went to a long time ago. So I don't think we need to build a new school, and I wouldn't support that right now. I think from what I've been reading, that the population is declining, not increasing. It's not like the baby boom that happened when we were all younger. And I don't think we're going to be needing a new high school in the very near future.
Thank you. Pat? I'll give you a chance, Glenn. Pat?
Okay, I mean, I've unfortunately not been able to go to any of the sessions that the school committee has hosted as far as studying the facilities, but my initial reaction is that no, we do not need a new high school. The one that we have is really not that old. As Sandi mentioned, where the town offices are, that building was, I think it's coming up close to its 100th anniversary. I think as long as we maintain the buildings, and given that the school enrollment seems to be decreasing rather than increasing, there might be some adjustments that need to be made as far as where different classes go to what schools, but I feel like we should be able to, first of all, make absolute use of the buildings that we have before we even consider building a new building.
Thank you very much, Pat. Glenn, you wanted rebuttal, and you have 60 seconds.
I just wanted to add on something that Sandi said, that the enrollment is declining. It has been in recent years. But part of the study suggests that the enrollment will start to edge up again. I look around the room, and there are many senior citizens here, as I am. And there will be a time when all of those senior citizens will be reaching a certain age, and they'll be selling their home. And most likely, they're not going to be selling it to another senior citizen. They'll be selling it to a young family with children. So eventually, these things tend to cycle out, in that you have a normal curve that enrollment goes up and down. The question is, how much enrollment will go up and down, and no one can predict that. I mean, this study will determine what the trends be, and then apply it to what Chelmsford has. But it will eventually go up somewhat.
Thank you very much, Glenn. That ends round one of our audience questions. We'll have at least one more round of audience questions, but it now comes the time for the invited members of the press to ask 2 questions. And I'm not sure who is here because I didn't see the sign-in sheet. So who are our members of the press? If you could identify yourself, please.
Hi, Alana Melanson from The Sun, but I'm going to abstain from asking questions tonight.
All right, I will note that Alana Melanson from the Lowell Sun, Lowell's great newspaper, established in 1870-something, I believe. I didn't look it up. They've been around for a long time. I have to say it's the first time I've heard the Lowell Sun abstain from answering questions. Please feel free to jump in later on. We'll have another round of press questions. So, and we thank you very much for being here, and I'm sure there'll be a story that everybody can read soon. Okay. We have, don't even think about going there. We have John McDonald from JMAC and the Bear, the Pulse, and various and sundry other shows on 980 WCAP where everybody gets it. So, John, do you have a question for our selectmen?
I have one question. I'll ask, goes to all the candidates, which is, do you feel that the town of Chelmsford has appropriate staffing levels in both its police department and fire department relative, obviously to relative to public safety? Do we have an adequate amount of police on the police force? Do we have an adequate amount of firefighters in the fire department to adequately serve the town of Chelmsford?
I'm going to repeat the question for our audience on the radio and on TV. And the question was, do you feel that the police and fire department in Chelmsford are adequately staffed to provide for the best public safety for the town? And our order would be Sandi, Martinez first.
I sat down with both Chief Ryan and Chief Spinney and discussed that question with them. They both have wish lists. I think, as every department in town probably does. They could always use more help. But right now, it's close. What they told me is if 2 or 3 people call in sick, sometimes you have to have people working overtime to fill in. And so the answer is a yes and a no answer. It depends on who's out sick, I suppose.
Okay, Pat?
I think right now the staffing levels are appropriate. Obviously, you can always use more, but you need more money in order to increase both police and fire. Several years ago, there were some cuts made in both. You may remember that periodically we'd have one fire station one of the satellite fire stations that would be closed on a rotating basis. We no longer have that. All 5 stations now are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we did add. I believe it was 4 police officers in a not too distant past, so that brought our staffing levels for police back up to a more safe level for the town. So I do feel we are adequately served.
Thank you, Pat. Glenn?
Like Sandi, I met with the police chief and the fire chief, and they basically told me the same thing, that they feel that they are at a level to protect the public. They do struggle sometimes a little bit when people are out sick, but they're able to move their resources around and they feel they're covered.
All right, thank you very much. And that ends the first round of press questions. And I'm hoping either that more members of the press will join us or that they will become creative. Right now we're represented. Alana, I always lose your last name, so please say it again for me. Alana Melanson of the Lowell Sun and John McDonald of 980 WCAP are representing the press tonight. And I will say that you are tuned to 980 WCAP and Chelmsford Telemedia. If this is Thursday, the 24th of March, you are listening to us live from the police training room in Chelmsford. There's still time for you to join us just off Drum Hill. We are open to the public. And again, we thank the town of Chelmsford. We thank the Chelmsford Police Department. And most importantly, we thank all of our candidates for putting themselves up for election, throwing their hats in the ring, and joining the fray and coming in on the contest. If you are not listening to us on the 24th of March, or if this isn't the 24th of March, it's because we are rebroadcasting the live broadcast from the 24th of March. We're now going to come to my favorite part of our Democratic Town Committee debates, which reminds me to say the debate is sponsored by the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee. You'll remember us from the 4th of July. We're as American as apple pie, and that's what we sell at the 4th of July, which will be coming up soon. So look for us on the Common. with apple pie, blueberry pie, and cherry pie. And we meet the last Thursday of the month. Get in touch with any of us. There are 33 members elected every 4 years. And congratulations to those who were elected on March 1st. And also congratulations to our Republican counterparts, which were also elected on March 1st. If you are a Republican, seek them out. Their names are on the town website. If you're a Democrat, seek us out. If you're neither a Democrat or Republican and you are unenrolled, consider enrolling. You can't influence the choices if you're not part of the process. So, with that said, once again, it is time for our candidates to ask each other questions. Same rules, gentlemen and ladies, and that is the person asked will have 2 minutes to answer, and the other candidate will have a minute to put his or her 2 cents into the mix. Do we all understand what will occur? I take the silence as affirmation. So we will begin the way our order was going, if I can find it in front of me now. The first person on this round will be Glenn.
All right.
So Glenn, a question to...
All right, question for Sandy. Sandy, you run previously for state positions, and now you're running for the town position. What have you found is different about them?
The size of the district, for one. When I was running for the state senate, there were 9 towns that ranged in size from the city of Waltham all the way to a small town like Carlisle, which only had 1 precinct. So basically, it was the size, but the people are the same, and a lot of the issues are pretty much the same. The difference being at the state senate level, you're talking about things that affect the entire state. Your vote affects the whole state, whereas in Chelmsford, it just affects Chelmsford.
Pat, do you have anything to chime in on that answer? Would you like?
I do not.
You don't. And Glenn, do you have any follow-up, or are you satisfied?
No, I'm satisfied with that. Thank you.
Pat, it's your turn to choose a candidate and ask.
Well, like the Lowell Sun, I'm going to abstain from a candidate question.
All right, so we have an abstention, which leads us to Sandi.
The second abstention?
A second abstention. I would only remind the candidates that, and I really appreciate the civility. I'm not suggesting that we be non-civil at all. And I will say that we will go back to Glenn again, but the audience and the moderator, I have some questions here that are aimed at one candidate and not all the candidates. And if the candidates aren't going to ask each other, I'm going to defer to the audience in this round, or the press. I think it's appropriate, and I think that it is very insightful. I think a candidate asking a candidate, not the way we've seen it in the debates, especially on the debates with more than 2 candidates. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking to get information out and have the audience learn as much as they can about each of you. I saw some gesturing from John McDonald, so does that mean he has, I'm sure it means he has a question.
Unless the whole son would like to ask first. Do you have any questions you want to ask?
Actually, I do have one. So the lease on the Chelmsford Forum is going to be up in a couple of years. What would you like to see the town do with that property? Lease it again? Purchase it? What?
Okay, do I need to repeat the question, or did everybody hear it? Are you aiming that at one candidate or everybody?
Everybody.
Who do you want to start?
Oh, I am terribly sorry. I thought, in as much as we were rewriting the rules with all our abstentions, you guys would just jump out and start again. It looks like when last we stopped, it looks like that it's Pat's turn to start. Pat,
Okay.
it's on you.
That was me.
It was your turn to start? Why not? I mean, see, I want you to see what I had written down. It says Pat, but Glenn, go ahead. Give it a go.
I think the jury's still out on that. The town, it's not, I think, coming up to 2017. There's a lot of decisions to be weighed in terms of acquiring it against leasing it. The question is, what kind of terms are available? What's the financial health of the town in 2017? I think it's a little bit premature to make the decision one way or another at this time.
Pat?
Well, I would agree that we don't need to make that decision in the near future. We do have a little time to think about that. I know one of the things that we need to evaluate is how many capital improvements we have put into that building, because that would affect how much we'd have to pay for it. I think so far it has been a great asset for the town. We have a lot of leagues that play there, I mean, all hours of day and night. So if it can be any kind of revenue stream and be self-sustaining, I would be in favor of, I don't know if they allow us to continue the lease, but to maybe go ahead and purchase it if we could work that out equitably.
Thank you. Sandy?
This sounds redundant, but I have to agree with Pat as well. Having grown up in Chelmsford, I used the Forum as a young person, and all my children went there. They played hockey there, they took ice skating lessons. There are great memories. And from what I understand, we have invested some money in the parking lot, I believe. And to me, it makes sense for us to buy it at some point if we can find a way to pay for it. I believe, from what I've been told, that the revenue that it comes in would almost make the building pay for itself.
Thank you. John McDonald had a question, so floor is yours, John.
Recently, the news came out that Kronos, major business in the town of Chelmsford, left the town of Chelmsford to move to the city of Lowell. The reason why they chose to move to the city of Lowell was because of the new direction that many businesses of that size tend to gravitate towards, which is an all-inclusive campus-style environment. The Route 129 corridor in Chelmsford obviously isn't that all-inclusive environment. What's your vision to move the town forward from an economic development standpoint to ensure that more businesses don't leave the town of Chelmsford and actually move in? Sandy Martinez.
Yes, and, no. It is Sandy Martinez. It's Sandy, Glenn, and Pat. So Sandy, you're first.
Oh, can you repeat that? That was a very long question.
Well, it's relative to economic development
Okay.
and the loss of Kronos, which is a major employer and a big taxpayer in the town of Chelmsford. They moved to Lowell. One of the reasons that the primary reason that business left was due to the fact that they are a large employer and that they were attracted to an all-inclusive type of environment for their employees, which Cross Point Towers provided. And that seems to be the trend moving forward for larger businesses. The 129 business corridor in Chelmsford does not accommodate that. What's your plans as a potential selectman to ensure that that evolves, that changes from an economic development standpoint, so current businesses don't leave and new businesses are attracted to the town?
For the listeners at home, I will paraphrase and compress the question. The gist of it is, Chelmsford lost a large employee in Kronos, which moved less than a mile away. Reason given was, not enough expansion room, but even more importantly, lack of a all-inclusive space. And by all-inclusive, having amenities for its employees, having food and other things nearby, a dry cleaner, food, all of these things. And I think that what John is asking is, now that this has happened, what are we going to do to make sure it doesn't continue to happen in the future?
Well, I sat down with Evan Belansky and discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and he is confident that Kronos space will be filled within less than a year. It's a good building. It's not that old, and it has a lot of potential to bring in new businesses into town. As far as the 129 corridor goes, I think that's up for debate at this point. I know there are mixed feelings in the town about developing down there and putting in 6-story buildings and all kinds of things like that. If we were just talking about putting in some dry cleaners and a few restaurants, it's different than putting in 6-story buildings. So I think you have to define what you mean you would like to put down there and then go forward with that.
Thank you, Sandy. Glenn?
As far as Kronos leaving, what was publicized a lot was that they wanted to have all their people in one building. But there was probably many issues that went into their final decision. The city of Lowell used TIF to a large extent to entice them to come. I think that the fact that their name is going to be 150 feet in the air in 4-foot letters with people driving up and down Route 3 constantly is going to help them, as they visualize it, go from a $1 billion company to a $2 billion company, that people they do business with will be impressed when they come to the corporate headquarters, and that's all part of it. The bigger question is what to do with the 129 corridor, not only just filling the existing space that's there, but it's redeveloping the space. There are many one-story buildings over there. They're older, they're tired-looking. If you were to say that you could put up a 6-story building or whatever size building, much larger than that, the income the town would receive would be much greater. So it's a question of redoing what we have, essentially, because we don't have any more land, we just have the land that's there. But proposing to take some of the rules, excuse me, and make them more palatable for developers is really where it's going. And that's how you're going to be able to keep not only the businesses there, but they are going to want to be there because they have neighbors that are larger companies, and that additional bodies over there will bring in services. They'll bring in restaurants. They'll bring in dry cleaners. Those amounts of people in a concentrated area will attract businesses, the service industries. So it's always a kind of a chicken and an egg kind of thing. But I believe that our first goal should be obviously to find tenants for the existing facilities, but to repurpose many of the tired old ones and create a greater economic boom for the town.
Thank you very much. Pat?
Obviously, Mr. McDonald hasn't been reading the Lowell Sun about prior debates that we had, because I think we've answered that question in every forum that we've had so far. But basically, I favor the planning board bringing to town meeting a zoning bylaw change that would allow some amenities to be there, some restaurants, maybe some dry cleaners, hair salons, or things to that effect that would be patronized by not just the employees that would work in those buildings, but the neighborhoods too, and maybe even people from Billerica that might come in this direction. I think it can be done in a careful way, and so I'm looking forward to the planning board conducting some hearings on that and seeing what they can come up with and bring it to town meeting. I think now is the time. There probably is an appetite to go forward with something like that, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you very much, Pat. It's now time for our second and final round of audience questions. So get them up here. I will ask until we're done. I want everybody to stay tuned for part 2 of our candidates debate. As exciting as the Selectmen debate is, there is nothing more exciting than the race for constable. So I don't know why we're getting some smiles on that. I'm being serious. We have many candidates running for constable, and they will be coming up at 8:15, so we're not too far away from that time. So don't go away. We're having a very spirited debate. My name is Sam Poulten, and I am representing the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee that's sponsoring the debate tonight. We meet the last Thursday of every month, either here at the police station or at the fabulous 110 Grill on Chelmsford Street that gives us their facilities. You're listening to us live on 980 WCAP and on Chelmsford Telemedia. I still don't know which channel it is, but it's one of the 3 channels. And if it's not the 24th of March, you're listening to a replay of tonight's debate. We're now back to audience questions, And our order is going to be Pat, Sandi, Glenn. So Pat, Sandi, Glenn, here is the question. It is a three-part question, folks. And I'd like a quick one-sentence answer to each of these questions. Are we ready? Glenn enjoys these. I mean, I read them as I get them. That's all I can say. So, first part of the three questions. Do you support the town manager? And first up is Pat.
So you're just going to give us one part at a time? Is that it?
Don't you think that's it? You want me to give you all three? Here we go. You ready? Do you support the town manager? Do you believe in global warming? Do you believe in evolution?
Are you serious?
Well, for the first part of the question, yes, I do support the town manager. I think he does a great job. He's well respected in this community and this region. As far as the other two questions, they have no bearing whatsoever on being on the Board of Selectmen, so I don't see how answering those in any way is going to make any difference in how anybody is going to vote in this election.
Thank you, Pat. Remember, the moderator is only asking the questions as they're asked by the audience. I'm going to try one at a time. Sandi, you're next up. It was Pat, Sandi, Glenn. So, Sandi, do you support the town manager?
Of course.
Okay, you can elaborate.
I'm going to elaborate. Paul suggests creative ways to improve the money which keeps our bond rating at A1, which allows us to borrow at a favorable interest rate. Some people criticize him for not living in Chelmsford, but that doesn't preclude his participating in any and all town activities. He's a great Chelmsford booster. And so I support him.
Thank you. The second part of the three-parter was, do you believe in global warming? It does affect Chelmsford. So, do you believe in global warming?
If you tell me how global warming affects Chelmsford, maybe I can give you an answer, but I think they're irrelevant. I join with Pat in that.
Well, my own take is, and I'm prejudiced, I'd always wanted to live on the seacoast, and I think if global warming continues, my house on Berkeley Drive will be a lot closer to the ocean, but that's only me. Do you believe in evolution?
How has that got to do with being a selectman?
If that's the answer, that's your answer.
It's totally irrelevant.
Evolution or to the...
To being, that question is irrelevant to being a member of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but certainly not least on this triad is Glenn.
I was at the Chelmsford Alumni Association award ceremony the other night. And Paul Cohen happened to be sitting at the next table over. And I've talked to Paul numerous times during the campaign. And I said to him that I looked back over and watched the debates from last year and participated in the debates this year. And the question about the ability and about the town manager has come up at every single one of those. And I told him that usually the question follows something like, would you rate the town manager's performance 1 to 10? 10 being the highest. But you can't go any higher than 5, so that they would taint their views. Personally, I think he's done an outstanding job managing the town finances. I think our bond rating has saved us a tremendous amount of money. I think that he has negotiated long and hard and fairly with the various unions. But I think he could use additional funds. We need to create additional money for him so that he can do more for the town. And I think that would be one of the goals that I will try to do for him. I think the Board of Selectmen can only do that by trying to set policy, bringing the Planning Board, the Zoning Commission together so that there is a common ground and set the stage for others to come into the town and make offers and this and that for development. Then the town manager can work with them with TIFs and so forth. So, yes, I think he's done a great job. In relation to the other two questions, I think it's only fair to answer them. They were asked. They don't have anything to do with the Board of Selectmen, but if someone is passionate about them, I think we should answer them. First, about global warming, I do believe in global warming. I think Chelmsford choosing to use solar panels as much as they do is a right step to do. I think all of us have something to do with saving energy. I think that the unusual swings in climate that we've had in recent years, last year was a disaster. This year, very little snow. I think that the various things that have gone all over the world, tornadoes happening earlier than they've ever happened, tornadoes happening during the winter, droughts in various parts of the world. I think these things are cyclical, but I think the scientists basically say that there is a global warming trend and we need to address it. In relation to evolution, I believe in science. I think that there's really no way to discount evolution. I would hope that it goes forward in terms of we get to be better and smarter as time goes on. I think we need to be.
Hear, hear. Thank you very much. Okay. Our next question from the audience is going to Sandi, Glenn, and Pat. In the last 3 years, several historic buildings in town have been threatened by redevelopment. What do you feel is the best way to balance the interest of developers with the interest of the town's historic preservation? Sandi.
I think preserving our history should be an overriding factor. I don't think we should necessarily give in to developers who might want to tear down what we have. I think we've done a great job in the past moving and saving buildings. I know that several historic homes have been moved. I was very devastated that we had to tear down the yellow building that used to house all the books from the library. But I think it's important to put our historical preservation before the developers.
I am sorry, we're getting more questions.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you, Sandi. Glenn.
I think each one needs to be weighed on its own merits. I, as a selectman, I would be certainly welcome to hear arguments on either side, and then I would, make a decision and vote accordingly. I've gone on record by saying that again, it's in hindsight at this point, but I would not be in favor of the Mill Road property being acquired by the town. On the other hand, the old fire station was torn down. I was in favor of that because it was a public safety issue, that it was effectively lobbied that that building was a death trap and needed to come down. In as much as it was a historic property, public safety really comes first.
Thank you. Pat?
We have at least 3 boards and committees in town that are very active as far as historic preservation, being the Historic Society, the Historic District Commission, and the Community Preservation Committee. They do a good job of evaluating the buildings that are being considered for demolition or for other uses. They make recommendations. They're very active. So I would, defer basically to them. We have people that have been on those committees for many, many years. They have a lot of institutional knowledge. They keep great inventories of all the buildings in town. So I would look to them to help us maintain, the appropriate level of preserving our historic structures. And when it comes time when we can't preserve them for whatever reason, if it's because they are in disrepair or whatever else might occur, then I would look to them for their guidance on how to move forward.
Thank you, Pat. The next question from the audience reads, the Chelmsford Public Schools have serious budget issues, especially in regards to out-of-district placements, among other things. How do you propose we address this expensive need? And I'm going to say, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, how would you help address this very expensive need? And the order of answer is Glenn, Pat, and Sandi. So, Glenn, you're up.
Well, I think if you're talking about students who are attending the Neshoba, which are out of town, which we support, I think it's a matter of the opportunities that the students have. If the interest of the student is based on a program that is not in Chelmsford, then certainly they should be allowed to go. If you're talking in relationship to Chelmsford, residents in Chelmsford wanting to attend other public schools, for example, let's say they wanted to go to Reading, where we would have to pay Reading's tuition, it would be a matter of if they choose to go there for whatever reason, we should support that decision. It's for the children, not for us to decide. I think that the town in general, if I remember correctly from the school committee meetings, that Chelmsford does very well on having other students come to us, that we are a quality program, that parents choose to send their children here, and therefore it's a plus for us. We only have so much room for outside students, but our goal should be to make our program as strong as it can be, and if it is, then the problem takes care of itself. Students won't want to go somewhere else, unless the program is just not offered by us.
Thank you, Glenn. Just by way of clarification and disclaimer, I am one of Chelmsford's representatives to the fabulous Neshoba Valley Vocational Technical High School, a gym, and I've always considered Neshoba as one of Chelmsford's public schools. So I would not consider going to Neshoba out of district. I suspect that this is more about special needs, but if the person in the audience that wrote it, could you come on up here quickly, please? I will never do this again. I promise not to put anybody on the spot, but I think you deserve to ask your question and get it answered. So maybe you can clarify it a bit. Here's the mic. You didn't mean the show, but did you?
No, I didn't.
Thank you.
So my question was specifically in regards to special education placements. When we had some of the first issues come to light with the school department budget, one of the issues that came up was we had several students come into the district who were in special education placements. As someone who's worked at both a residential school and a day school out of district placement, I can tell you they're exceptionally expensive. So knowing that this is a real need in our town, what do you propose we do to address the needs of these students within the town rather than sending them out of district?
Thank you very much. And Glenn, in fairness to you, and I thought you gave an excellent answer. You said nothing negative about Neshoba, thank you. But now that we know that out-of-district placement means special needs students, I'm going to let us start again with this round of answers. Glenn.
All right. The Board of Selectmen really doesn't tell the school department to do anything. They're an autonomous group in many ways. They have certain programs that they meet the needs of certain students that have special needs in-house. There are other students who don't. That assessment is made, and if there are needs that are outside the town, then the town should spend whatever money is associated with that. I think Chelmsford is exemplary in when you look at the amount of money we spend on special needs for students, as opposed to, for example, a town like Westford, which spends very little. You would see that Chelmsford in general is an attractive town for families who have children who have special needs. And I think that historically, if you would ask people in general, that Chelmsford is one of the towns that steps up to the plate in addressing those needs. I can say personally, I lived in Billerica from 73 to 78, and I had a child who needed a lot of remedial help. It was almost impossible to get the town to provide those services. Again, that was in the infancy of the whole programs. But it was indicative of what you have. There are some towns, I believe, that go out of their way to make it difficult, and there are other towns that recognize that this is an obligation that we have and step up to the plate. And I think Chelmsford is one of those towns.
Thank you. Pat?
Well, I agree. I think Chelmsford has always stepped up to the plate as far as providing whatever educational needs are, the individual students have. when we have to send them out of district, I know it is much more expensive than when we can take care of those needs in-house. So, I know that the school department has made efforts to increase the in-house, the in-district educational opportunities for special needs kids. So I guess I would encourage them, within the budget that they have. Again, as Glenn said, the Board of Selectmen doesn't really have any control over how the school department spends their money on an individual level like that. But I would encourage them to set up as many of those educational opportunities as they can. In fact, even to bring students from other districts in, because then we do get additional revenue for them. So I would encourage them to have as few out of district as possible, and if we have the resources and the capability of doing that, to bring more in-house.
Thank you, Pat. Sandi?
Well, of course, I support special education. I haven't had anybody in my family that's had to take advantage of it, but I have known parents who have praised Chelmsford for what it does. It's far above and beyond what a lot of towns do. The expense is something to be considered, and as Pat and Glenn have indicated, we as a Board of Selectmen, should we be elected to it, have no say over the school's budget. It's totally separate. I'm glad that we are able to educate these children. I have relatives that have had to take advantage of this in other towns, and if it wasn't there for them, they wouldn't have much of a future, I would say.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that the audience took my challenge when the candidates didn't have questions candidate to candidate, and that is how we'll end this round. But I am lacking a question for Mr. Diggs. So I have one for Pat, I have one for Sandi. Would someone be so kind as to write a question for Mr. Diggs while I ask the questions that came in? So the first question that came in is for Pat. So, Pat Wojcik, you've stated that you are concerned about our senior citizens and their fixed incomes. How, as a selectman, do you think you can minimize taxes for seniors? Does the Board of Selectmen have any direct impact on the amount of taxes paid by our seniors? Pat.
Well, we have many programs and options that seniors can take advantage of to defer some of their tax bill or abate it. And one of the greatest things that I think the state has is the Senior Circuit Breaker program, which if you meet certain income requirements, which are very generous, I think, you can get up to $1,000, I think it's back from the state. If you pay a certain amount of real estate tax based on your tax and the value of your home. So I would encourage seniors to take advantage of those. There's also another option that we don't currently take advantage of. It's a chapter in Mass General Law which would allow us to set up a volunteer fund that residents could make donations to, and a committee would be set up that would decide how those funds would be allocated. People could submit if they're really in dire straits and couldn't pay their real estate tax bill, they could submit an application to that committee, and it would take each one individually under advisement and possibly help that person pay their tax bills, similar to the ATEF program that we have now, where people can pay a little bit extra on their real estate taxes and it goes into that fund. So I would look at doing something like that. That's an option that we would have to approve at town meeting. So maybe sometime in the next year or so we can look more carefully at that and see what the appetite in the community might be for that, because I know there's a lot of very generous people in this town, and I'm sure there are many that would be willing to contribute to a fund like that.
Thank you very much, Pat. Sandi, please tell the audience here and at home one or two concrete ways you will grow jobs in Chelmsford.
Well, the one way of growing jobs in Chelmsford is to attract new businesses, which will bring new jobs. And I think that we've talked a lot about the 129 corridor as a place where we will see new businesses springing up. Also, like I've been advocating for a while, is we need to fill the empty spaces that we currently have, and if we do that, that would provide more jobs as well.
Thank you very much, Sandi. Last call. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to specifically ask Mr. Diggs A question?
Could I answer on the last one, too?
Say
Would
again?
that be okay if I answered on her question, too?
You know what? I think that would be great. So, Mr. Dix, how
Get brownie
specifically,
points for that?
how you get points for that, how specifically would you grow jobs in Chelmsford, sir?
Well, I think it continually goes back to allowing the zoning to increase the density of the buildings that are already on the 129 corridor. We don't have any more land, but we do have a lot of buildings that are not maximizing the space that they're on. If we bring in larger buildings, more people are occupying them, those people are going to be buying gas, they're going to be eating food, they're going to be using dry cleaners, they're going to be using hair salons, and so forth and so on. And so that will increase the business. It's a question of bringing in more people. The more people that come into town from the economic side, not from the residential side, but from the economic side, the better the town and the businesses that are already here, and the businesses that will move in to support them, will be.
Thank you very much. I'm going to allow you 30 seconds, Glenn, and I'm going to allow Pat 30 seconds and Sandi 30 seconds on this because we're exactly out of time.
No, I do not dye my hair.
No. So far, I think that Glenn is ahead on comedy points, but to end on a serious note, and I did ask the audience, I assume there are no more press questions, so I'm going to ask this to all of you. This was finally addressed to Glenn, but to all of you, and I'll start with Glenn. If we fill all the buildings that have recently been vacated on 129, how will this area provide housing? The previous employees have not moved away. So the gist of the question is, if everything on 129 becomes commercial, where will people live in that neighborhood?
Well, you know, I drove from Route 3 to the center, and I passed 5 houses, and that's all there was. One of them looked like it was in very disrepair, that it was either no one lived there or whoever lived there couldn't afford to take care of it. So, you know, there's an entire populace in Chelmsford that relies on the city government to provide services for them. And, you know, it's not an easy question to answer that you're going to displace people. But in the end, most likely what will happen is that that property will be extremely valuable, and that those people may choose to sell it at a profit and relocate in town, or they may choose to live there. I can remember going to Toronto. Do you want to hear the whole story?
If you can end in a sentence, I'm dying to know what happened in Toronto.
I worked in Toronto for a while, and Toronto is a much bigger than Boston. And I can remember going out, let's say, 30 miles from the downtown, and you would see basically a skyscraper 30 miles away, and next to it was a pig farm. Now, you would say, how can that exist? And the reason is that that land was all zoned commercial, but the original owner didn't want to make a lot of money. He was happy doing his thing. So if the people who reside there, you're not going to force them to move. If they want to stay there, that's their right. So, you know, I don't think you're going to displace them if they don't want to be displaced. That's not the goal.
Okay, Pat.
Well, I think the question was, where are the people going to live? I think the questioner, and, you know, just trying to read that person's mind, is questioning with, there wouldn't be enough housing if all those buildings were filled with people working there. And that may be true that in the town of Chelmsford we are built out as far as residential areas, but we do have surrounding communities where there's still construction going on with new houses. In fact, even in Chelmsford, up on 110, back behind Thai Jasmine up there's a new apartment complex going in. So, you know, if we have the jobs, the housing will come. I'm sure it will come. You know, eventually people might have to go spread out a little bit further as far as their commute. But then that would maybe allow us to have more public transportation, which would be a great thing, too.
Thank you. And Sandi, last word.
With new employment opportunities doesn't necessarily mean that the people are going to have to move. We could have people from Lowell, we could have people from Billerica coming to work here in Chelmsford in these new buildings, in these new office spaces. We are also putting up 40B housing for those who might have low-income jobs, perhaps, that would fit in the qualifications for applying for 40B. We just toured a new facility that opened up on 110, and there's another 58, 68 units going in there as well. So I don't think housing is going to be an issue for these employees. Most people are already living somewhere.
Okay, thank you very much. A round of applause in advance for our candidates. We now come to 1 minute closing statements, and it actually turns out that the closing statements will be in the reverse order of their seating, with Ms. Martinez last and Glenn first. So Glenn Diggs, Albert Glenn Diggs, but known as Glenn. So Glenn, closing statement.
You know, the town has had a string of adversity over the last 18 months. The school budget and personnel issues, the loss of major employers, seeing neighboring towns building new schools, proposing to build new schools like Tewksbury just announced. But we need to start raising our heads because we still have much to be proud of. You know, our schools continue their academic leadership. Our town finances are solid, and other towns are envious that we are not in dire straits as they are. However, I believe to continue this, we do need to increase our revenue through economic redevelopment. You know, I hope you join me in achieving this goal in the future. My name is Glenn Diggs, and I hope you provide me with one of your votes come April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Pat Wojcik.
Rather than just do another boring closing statement, I want to make an announcement about something that I found out about today. A couple of years ago, you may recall, probably a lot of you were there at the dedication of our 9/11 memorial outside the fire station. And the one thing that's missing from that memorial is a piece from the Twin Towers that collapsed on 9/11 in 2001. Well, next week, we're going to get a piece from those towers. And that's very exciting to me. That's a very big deal. A contingent from the fire department is going to go Tuesday afternoon to New York, pick it up and bring it back. And they're going to try to keep everybody up to date on where they are, so when they start getting close to Chelmsford, we can all come out and honor that piece of steel that will be coming. And we'll be integrating it into our existing memorial. It's the last thing to make that a very solemn and special place for the town of Chelmsford.
Is that on Tuesday, Pat?
Yes.
I want to say bravo, having been involved with the Tewksbury Memorial, which has a piece from the Twin Towers, and having been honored to sound taps at both of those memorials. This is going to make a very fitting memorial, a sacred memorial, and not too many places, I think, that probably a couple dozen at most have been honored with this kind of thing. So bravo to the town. I encourage everybody to come out on Tuesday. Do you think they'll be arriving afternoonish?
It'll be Wednesday when they're coming back.
Wednesday, I'm sorry.
Figuring around 3 is when they expect to be back in town.
Wednesday around 3. Thank you, Pat.
That's March 30th,
March 30th.
for those watching on tape.
Yes, for those of you on tape. Sandi Martinez.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Sam, and for the Democratic Town Committee for hosting this tonight, for Chelmsford Telemedia for broadcasting, and for each of you who sat through this long and arduous process with all the questions and answers. I hope you learned a lot about each of us tonight. I think we shared our hearts with you about our love for this town and our desire to serve this town. And I would just ask respectfully for one of your 2 votes on Tuesday, April 5th.
Thank you very much. April 5th, a big round of applause for our selectmen candidates. Thank you very much. We are now, after a brief break, we're going to reset, and our constables will be here to debate. Please give them the same courtesy we gave the selectmen. We'd like the audience to remain. You're tuned to 980 WCAP, Comcast Channel 8, Verizon Channel 38, Chelmsford Telemedia. We'll be back in 3 minutes right after this. We are back. I'm Sam Poulten, and I am moderating a debate with the constable candidates enjoy yourselves. We're live, and this is what happens with live television. I guess those running for constables are like herding cats, and I'm not going to cover up at all. We asked for 3 minutes for the constables to join us. And now they're here. So you're tuned to Verizon, whatever the channel is. We have 8 and 38. Hold up some fingers for me. 8 and 38. There we go. Chelmsford Telemedia and 980 WCAP. I'm Sam Poulten, chair of the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee. And we are hosting a candidates debate. Thanks to the town of Chelmsford, the Chelmsford Police, and we are live at the Chelmsford Police Training Room, unless it's not March 24th, 2016, in which case you're hearing this debate as a replay. We have questions from the audience. We have our 2 constables present now, and we will begin. And they missed the coin toss, so we're going to simply begin reverse alphabetically. And we'll have our opening statement from Charlie Wojcicki.
Oh, hey, thank you, Sam. I guess I'd like to thank the Democratic Committee for inviting me here. And I guess I want to start with, my name's Charlie Wojcicki. I live in 281 Boston Road. I've lived there about 3 or 4 years, but I've lived in Chelmsford almost my whole life. I've lived with my wife, Joan, my lovely wife, Joan, for like 6 years now. It's been almost blissful living with Joan. Almost blissful. That's a very strong word. I've gone through 12 years of of school in Chelmsford. I've lived here my whole life, with the exception of 4 years during the Vietnam War. I was stationed on a submarine out of Guam. So I do have a long experience in Chelmsford. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wojcik. Attorney Harvey.
Good evening. My name is William Harvey. Thank you very much, Sam, for inviting me tonight, as well as the Democratic Town Committee and WCAP 980.
Thank you.
Again, Attorney William Harvey, 45 years old. I've lived in town my entire life. I went through the Chelmsford public school system, graduated in 1989. After graduation, went to University of Massachusetts Lowell, graduated with a degree in criminal justice. After graduating, I went to the Massachusetts School of Law, where I graduated in 1997. I'm licensed to practice in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire. I've been a trial attorney since 1997 with an office in Lowell. I've lived in Chelmsford, as I said, my entire life. My family has been, the Harveys have been in Chelmsford for generations, going back to the lumberyard days of Harvey Building Supplies, as well as State Line Lumber. And the reason why I'm running is because obviously Mr. Spence is no longer with us. He was a constable for nearly 5 decades, a very good constable. The position became open, and I thought that with my qualifications, skill, and experience, as well as my educational background, that I'd be most qualified. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 5th.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad you brought up Bill Spence's name, and I won't ask for a moment of silence. First of all, it's been a while, and second, Bill wouldn't have liked that. I think just to mention the incredible tenure, I'm pretty sure is it 40 years or was it more?
I thought it was 50. Someone told me it was 5
50
decades.
years as constable, and of course we all knew him also later as the proprietor and presider at the country store on Old Westford Road. And speaking of radio, he was a voice on WLLH, you pardon, 1400, the other radio station in Lowell. So, Bill, you're missed, but we know you're here tonight because he was personally responsible for our late start on the constable. He was talking to the guys in the hall, I'm guessing. So here's the way it's going to work, gentlemen. I think you were here for the end of the school committee debate. We're going to have questions from the audience, which we have, and you're going to have 1 minute to answer the questions, and if we need a rebuttal, we'll give you another 30 seconds. We're going to start the first question with Mr. Harvey, and we're going to ask the same question that we started with the Selectmen, and that is, why are you running for constable, and why are you the best person for the job?
Well, as I said in my opening, the reason why I'm running for constable is the position is currently open. Obviously, if Mr. Spence was here, I wouldn't be running out of respect for him. I've used his services for many, many years. He was a great constable. He did a wonderful job. He was a professional. Once it became open, I believe that I was the most qualified. I graduated law school. I know exactly what needs to be done when it comes to civil process with regards to the Massachusetts Rules of Civil Procedure and the importance of serving papers in a timely fashion and obviously in the correct way.
Thank you. Charles Wojcik.
Well, the reason I'd like to run for constable or be voted in for constable is I believe now I have enough time in my life. I'm semi-retired, so I have some time. And the other reason is I'd like to follow in Bill Spence's footsteps. I can remember many a time when him and I would be talking down at Precinct 10, it was called, Sam. And that was a great place to get a coffee. The coffee wasn't all that good, and neither were the donuts, but the conversation was great.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to start audience questions now. And first to answer will be Charlie Wojcik. What is the time period to serve a defendant in a civil lawsuit?
As far as I've read and heard, that it's as soon as possible. As soon as you get the papers, you respond immediately if you can.
All right, Mr. Harvey, Attorney Harvey?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, it's written, what is the time schedule
The time
to
schedule.
serve a defendant in a civil lawsuit?
The time schedule is stated in Massachusetts Rules of Civil Procedure, Section 4.2, which would be the maximum period is 90 days. However, the courts emphasize, in quotes, that the defendant shall be served as soon as practicable. But the issue is it's 90 days. The
Thank you.
answer is 90 days.
Thank you. Next question, and we start with Attorney Harvey. What are the jurisdiction limits of a constable?
The jurisdiction limits of an elected constable, I think, would be the elected town of the constable, which would mean Chelmsford. So in this election, we're going to be electing a constable in the town of Chelmsford, so we can only serve within the town of Chelmsford.
Thank you. Mr. Wojcik?
Yeah, that's exactly what I have read and heard and asked about, just the town of Chelmsford only.
Okay. Charles Wojcik, Charlie, you're first on this. Serving a variety of documents. As constable, do you believe some of these have to be presented with softness and others more firmly? What do you think your persona, how do you think your persona can handle both situations, and why are you able to do this?
I think persona. I would say that everything should be handled accordingly and at the same temperament. I mean, what does it matter if someone's going to jail or has a fine? I mean, you still should handle it with respect, basically.
Thank you.
It's simply a process of being professional while serving a document. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to serve the document in a hand to anybody, unless it's specifically stated. The document can be left at the last place of the person's usual residence, and after that, the constable would send the notice, copy of the notice by not certified mail, regular mail. And if that's returned, then the constable would have to notify the court as well as an attorney or whoever needed that service.
Thank you. How is the constable compensated? Is the post included in benefits of employees of the town? Do you get medical, retirement, and a long list of other benefits, asks the member of the audience, first to Attorney Harvey.
It doesn't receive any benefits. I didn't look into it. That was asked at a previous debate, and somebody else looked into it. I looked into this position as a volunteer basis only. It's not compensated by the town. There's no benefits. However, you are compensated on an individual basis as a private constable in a way. If somebody asks for you to serve papers, you can charge them, and that's according to statute on how much you can actually get paid. And not getting into too much discussion, but it's statutory. I believe it's Chapter 262 or 264, and it states exactly how much a constable can charge, depending on the type of civil process.
Thank you. Charlie?
I asked Honorina, the town clerk, and she thought, she wasn't sure, but each time a paper was served, it was $50.
Okay.
I could clarify that. When a paper's served, it's $30. That's the maximum. It's $30 if it's in hand. If it's not in hand, it's $20. And you also can get an attestation fee as well as mileage, which is 30 cents per mile.
All right, so we're somewhere between 30 and 50 there, with the mileage and,
It's 30.
and everything else. 30, okay. All right, we've got an audience question that says, quote, "What on earth does a constable do?" And Charlie, you're first on this one.
My take on the constable is I work for Honorina, the town clerk, whatever paper she wants delivered to whomever, and that's what a constable does in my mind.
Thank you. Attorney Harvey?
Well, a constable's job is a very important job. If anybody here in the audience has ever had to serve somebody an eviction or had to serve somebody a civil lawsuit, it's time sensitive. A lot of people sometimes don't know that. There could be somebody out there that decided all of a sudden they want to file a lawsuit, and the statute of limitations is 3 years, and the 3 years might be running in 2 months. So obviously that service of process would have to be done immediately, not the 90 days. If it goes to the 90 days, you lose your case. It's past the statute of limitations. So it is a very important decision. It's a very important position with attorneys, people in town, to get these documentations served properly.
Thank you. Okay, our next question from the audience, and please keep sending your questions up. We have plenty of time. Somebody in the audience wants to know if any of you, I assume that means the two people that are sitting here, have any of you been found guilty of anything in court? And I think we're back to Charlie as being first.
Yes.
Well, no, I think we're back to you. You were the last to speak, so Attorney Harvey.
No, I've never been found guilty of any crime, and not even a speeding ticket. However, I did have an inspection violation in Woburn, if you wanted to look that up, but never been found guilty.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I was in a court of law one day, and I think it was Waikiki in Hawaii. And I was driving my van. I think I was going 2 miles over the speed limit, and I was found guilty. But since I was in the Navy, the judge said, just go slower.
Oh, there you go. So it was, I would say that
So the answer is probably no.
technically, I would have, had it been me, I would have said no. But we'll honor you for giving
Yes.
us the story that led up to the no.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I was still getting over what on earth does a constable do? If elected constable, do you feel that you have the time to be able to fulfill your duties in the shortest period of time possible? Are you able to deliver papers in the timeliest of manners? And this time we start with Charlie.
That answer would be positively, because I am my own boss. I do whatever I feel like doing, and constable will be number one.
I follow in Charlie's footsteps. In addition to that, if something came up, we also have the ability to have deputy constables that could also serve papers.
Thank you. Do we have more audience questions? All right. We're now going to go to our round of candidate to candidate questions. So we will begin with Mr. Wojcik. Do you have a question for Attorney Harvey?
I do have a question, but you don't have to answer it. How's that?
Okay. You know, this is going to go down as the most civil beyond belief of debates, and I've been moderating these for 20 years. So here's a tough question for you, Attorney Harvey, but you don't have to answer it. It's okay.
I don't have to answer
So,
it.
Charlie, frame your question.
Bill, how much are you spending on signs?
Well, the way I look at it, Charlie, is I'm showing the town and the people that are voting in the town that I care about this position, I want this position, and that's how you show it. You don't show it by not showing up to debates, you don't show it by not having any signs, and you don't show it by not knowing what you're doing, Charlie, which you've shown that on the Dennis Reddy show.
Okay, it's
Thank you,
now...
Bill.
You're welcome. And we can all thank you, too, for destroying the Dutton House. But besides that,
All right, let's-
I care about the town.
Yeah.
I care about the town, that's why I'm running, okay? That's why I'm running. I get plenty of signs out there to show everybody in this town that I care about the town. I want the position. I'm qualified. I'm the only person here that went to law school. I understand the procedures. I've hired many constables, many sheriffs, had hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits that have been served. I know what I'm doing, and it's important. And I just find that the people that have decided to run aren't taking it seriously. And I find that offensive to the people and the voters of Chelmsford.
All right, and I
Can I
will say
respond to
that,
that,
I
please,
will say
Sam?
that one of the candidates, Mr. Weiner, was called into work tonight, had every intention of being here, and asked me to let folks know that he just was unable. He's been phoning me. He was just unable. He had a small injury, which means he won't be in work tomorrow, and he had to get some things done. So I'm just saying that for Andrew Weiner. So we have heard from him, and I appreciate the fact that we have two candidates here. I'm almost afraid to ask this, but question was asked by Charlie. So, Bill, you have a question.
I don't have a question because it's probably not going to be able to answer it, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, there
Thank
we
you.
go. So, do we have any other
Can I have a rebuttal, please?
audience questions? Absolutely,
All right.
Charlie. You can
Thank
have
you.
you can have a rebuttal.
Bill, I realize you're a lawyer, and I realize that you speak more eloquently than I do. But I did go to every debate except for the League of Women Voters. And the reason I didn't go to League of Women Voters was I was taking care of my wife that night. And constable is very, very important, and it's very, very serious. I understand that.
Thank you very much. We have still about 3 minutes. We're ending under schedule for the first time. Is there any last audience question? I know our press was unable to stay. I'm not saying that they, you notice I said we're unable to stay, but we don't have any press questions. Is there any last question from the audience? Is that one coming, Matt, or? As the auctioneer would say, going once, going twice, all in and all done. No more questions for the constable. It's time for closing statements, and we'll reverse the order. So I believe, who opened? I believe Charlie opened. Charlie, did you open?
Yes.
All right, so we'll have, we'll begin the closing statements with Attorney Harvey.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Poulten, and once again, thank you to the Democratic Town Committee, as well as WCAP, and everyone that came here tonight to ask questions. They're good questions, and I hope that I answered them as best as possible. But I do want to reiterate how important this position is to me. I've obviously have a lot of signs out there. I wanted to show you how much I want this job, how important it is to me. And I believe that I am the best candidate based on my experience being a lawyer, my education background, graduating from law school, and also being a member of this community for 45 years and rehabilitating historic properties in this town, building beautiful houses, and just being a part of the community, as well as graduating the Chelmsford High School. And on April 5th, I would truly appreciate your vote. My name is William Harvey, the third, and I'm number 3 on the ballot. So that should help. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Wojcik. Charlie?
Yeah, my name is Charlie Wojcik, and I'd just like to have you vote for constable on April 5th, and I'm number 1 on the ballot. Thank you very much.
And thank the two of you. I will say that there are, to my knowledge, there are 4 people running. Is that correct? There are 4 people running. Also running is Andrew Weiner, who I said was in contact with me, and Richard McClure. Obviously a very important position, which is why we included Constable in our Selectmen's debate. I will say that Barbara Scarr and Mr. Moses, and please forgive me, John Moses, I'm sorry, John Moses and Barbara Scarr are running unopposed for school committee, and inasmuch as there was no opposition and we wanted to maximize our time with selectmen candidates and include the constables, should you have any questions for those 2 candidates, I am sure that they would be glad to hear from you. Remember, the election is April 5th. I'd also like to say a couple of things on a personal note for the town committee. Health-wise, the town committee has had a terrible year, and we have more than half a dozen members who are fighting some serious illnesses. Not only do I wish them all the best. I'm certainly not going to mention them by name, but please know that whenever someone is ill, the best medicine is a phone call, a visit, or a prayer. So to my fellow town committee members, you very well know who needs our prayers. I'm asking you for them. I would again remind you, April 5th is the town election. There is also a caucus day for Democrats on April 9th, when delegates will be elected to the National Convention. This is also an important duty. The Republicans will also be caucusing. I'm not sure where and when, but I know the 3rd District Democrats will be at the Middlesex Community College. There are a number of local folks that are running for delegate. It's a great way for you to send your voice to Philadelphia. As of right now, there are 2 of us locally that are running, Curtis LeMay and Lowell, and I am running. I'm also running as a veterans, for a veteran seat with the State Committee. We began with a moment of silence for what happened in Brussels, Belgium. I would like to end with a reminder that for more than a decade, we have been meeting in town debates while men and women have been deployed throughout the world, standing between us and those who would do us harm, including Chelmsford residents. And please be mindful that they are in harm's way so that we can vote on April 5th and again in November. Please make every effort to go out and vote for the candidate of your choice. Come to Middlesex Community College on April 9th to support the Democrats who are running for delegate. Find out where the Republicans are caucusing, but most importantly, get involved. What a shame it would be to fight for a right that's not used. And that's why the Chelmsford Democratic Town Committee exists, to encourage and promote good government. But that starts with you. Please get out and vote. Another big round of applause for all of our candidates.
Thank you.
And there are also people running for planning board. Henry Parley, Edmund Roy, George Zaharoulis, all running for planning board. Trustees of the Public Library, Lisa Daigle, Julian Kenny, David Braslow. You heard Constable. Housing Authority is unopposed. Board of Health, Eric Kaplan, Georgiana Mueller for the Housing Authority. And I think I've hit everyone who's running for a public office. Good luck to everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being here. On behalf of the Town Committee, we wish you a safe trip home and a pleasant good evening.
Thank you.